Science-based lifting has become an absolute joke and has recently been getting a lot of heat on social media.
Actually, it is not the first time that science-based lifting is coming under attack. Around 10 to 12 years ago, we had another chapter when science-based lifters were sprouting here and there, and they were challenging the bodybuilders at the time and their ways of doing things.
Dave Pulcinella has been a competitive bodybuilder for almost 30 years. The new generation of bodybuilders begins to reject the all-or-nothing bodybuilding philosophy of the past. 19-year-old Ian McCarthy is quickly making a name for himself as a brashly outspoken opponent of what he considers to be the damaging bodybuilding myths that prevail in this sport. He is a strong proponent of a highly scientific approach to bodybuilding.
So now it's been more than a decade, and it seems like we are having the same debate.
But why? Well, the term science-based has become synonymous with kids on TikTok who proclaim to know everything, always trying to reinvent the wheel by coming up with some new and fancy exercise which takes longer to set up than Brian Shaw takes to swim 20 meters, or just in general people with authority claiming to know more about everything in training and nutrition because they have a title.
Nowadays, science-based lifting became some kind of a mafia, where there are a few people who have a lot of followers who are very influential. They have their monopoly on the science-based lifting community, and of course, all that money, all that fame got to their head, and of course, they became the villains.
Now, a science-based lifter is really just somebody who bases their training and nutrition on what's scientifically documented. However, in reality, many misuse the phrase to sell programs, coaching, or just to sound smart, using rage bait or unsupported theories and over-exaggerations to seem more knowledgeable.
So this is true. Nowadays, people are not really focused on providing information that works, stuff that has been tested time and time again, has survived the test of time, and most of the time, this stuff is very basic, and basic doesn't sell. You always have to try to reinvent the wheel, try to repackage the information so you can sell it to people and make more money. These people are not here to educate you. Even though their content might be flashy, heavily edited, and they throw all these studies at you, of course you'll think that they know what they're saying because of the way they deliver the information. But if you look behind all this flashy stuff, there's not that much depth to it.
But on the other side, there are the big YouTubers like Mike Israetel, Jeff Nippard, Sean Nalawan, this guy, and many others who claim to be science-based as well. Mike even has a PhD in sports science, which is supposed to be the highest degree of expertise, but even so, there is a lot of clashing and differing opinions between him and other experts.
I mean, we all know what happened with Mike's PhD. So him saying he's a doctor is just BS at this point. Now everybody knows that he didn't deserve that title, and I hope he'll do the right thing and stop calling himself a doctor.
Big difference between being evidence-based versus trying to overly optimize every aspect of your training with no realism. While a decent evidence-based lifter will combine experience with practicality and research, an optimalism lifter will misuse science to justify gimmicks to appear smart. People are getting sick and tired of hearing that everything we've known worked for ages suddenly isn't usable because it's not as stable or not as optimal as something else. But even with that, the science-based lifting community has been getting hammered by other fitness personas and bodybuilders.
That's very true. Actually, a lot of science-based lifters, especially the old school ones, they didn't look very good. But nowadays, with all the PEDs floating around, and with all these trends that people are jumping on gear and claiming natty, it's very easy for someone to do a transformation like that, be a fan of science-based lifting, and just come out with a program. How many people are not doing that? They're jumping on a cycle, they do a transformation, 1 year, 16 months, 2 years, 3 years, and then all of a sudden they are experts. Even though they haven't studied in that field, they have no accreditation, so basically they have no credibility. But just because they've done this transformation and they have followers on social media, all of a sudden they look like experts and an authority in the field. But they're actually not. They are good at being in front of the camera, reading off a script, filming themselves, sending the videos to the editors, and they will do all the magic. And if you look at this heavily edited, flashy transitions, angles, lighting, you're gonna think like, wow, this guy, he's a pro. He must know what he's doing. And they're gonna charge you a ridiculous amount for a program and coaching coming from their teams.
Sam Sulek was recently on a podcast with Chris Williamson where he gave his own thoughts on the matter, saying that it seems that many science-based lifters are just perfectionists who want to know everything but often end up missing the bigger picture.
Like the idea that they're following is, if I'm not perfect, then there's no point.
Even C-Bum said that he thinks people try to reinvent the wheel far too often and overcomplicate everything just to seem smart or just to feel more in control while not giving the actual training, nutrition, or recovery their best effort. As it's presented online, it can overcomplicate simple concepts and lead to what people call paralysis by analysis.
Or when they decide that they need to make more money, they will just come up with other research to justify their new program, as we've seen in the case of Jeff Nippard.
Instead of just going to the gym, picking up a barbell and training adequately hard with decent technical execution, you get lifters who spend half their workout trying to set up cables with different specific attachments, debating on whether or not they should do one incline notch higher on their dumbbell press to bias the clavicular head of their pecs more, only to then half-ass their sets, overthink the intensity, and then change their program 2 weeks after because they saw something else on TikTok. Which in reality, that means they're not really science-based at all.
I actually seen this in my gym many times, and even now there is one guy who I know he's an Athlete X fan, and the stuff that he does, all these stretches and activation exercises, it looks so complicated and unnecessary. And guess what? I know him for 2 years. He hasn't changed one bit in this time. And I've never seen him actually lifting that heavy. So this is true. Paralysis by analysis, overcomplicating stuff, can actually mess you up and do more harm than good.
Many even claim that doing 4 sets on an exercise is too much and isn't recoverable, and bases their claim on nothing but that Mike Menzer said it.
Every person is different. If Dorian Yates and Mike Menzer could do one working set and be so in tune with their body, and that would be enough for them to grow, that might not be the right thing for you. So a lot of the times in your journey it's going to be a lot of trial and error. What works for me might not work for you, and vice versa.
And then there's rage bait. Now, social media tends to reward hot takes and controversy since it tends to farm more engagement. You're always going to get more clicks on a post saying that everything you've ever known about training is false compared to a more nuanced take. It's basically fitness clickbait disguised as science, and while it gets some views, it makes the whole evidence-based community look like clowns who only care about novelty instead of what actually works and helping people to get better, even if this is just a loud minority of people in that community. Now, another reason why people hate science-based lifting is because of the conflict between literature and practice. Just because one study says something is better doesn't mean you should jump on the bandwagon and change your training on the day.
But when you're presented with a program or with a way of training that says, no, science says this, if you're doing it differently, then you're wasting your time. That's really dogmatic, and because it sounds scientific and quirky and cool, you might be hooked on that. Even though that style might not work for you. But you get to a point where these science-based lifters are so influential and they can brainwash their audience into believing everything that they say. Even though a lot of them are cherry-picking their studies, which will then present to you as the only way of doing things.
I think a big reason why people hate science-based lifters nowadays is that their knowledge doesn't always carry over to their own results. Like, people would rather listen to a roided-out bodybuilder than somebody like Lyle McDonald, Chris Beardsley, or even Jeff Nippard. Do you honestly think people would listen to Jeff if he was, say, 30 pounds lighter and could barely bench 2 plates? Or heck, if Mike Israetel wasn't jacked but instead he was 160 pounds? I don't think so.
And nowadays there's another problem. Everybody thinks that PEDs are the magic pill and they're only like one step away from taking it. And a lot of people do. And we know how effective this stuff is. Someone can take PEDs, not do that much, have a horrible diet, their training can be shit, and they might still get better results than me, who am busting my ass in the gym, who am sticking to my diet, because they're on a super physiological dose of hormones, which will help them speed the result. So how do we know that Jeff Nippard is actually natural? How do we know that all these science-based lifters are true to their words, and it's actually their programs who gave them those results? Or maybe they actually cheated a little bit on the side, with an injection here and there, with a pill here and there. How do we know that? We can't know.
And maybe that's the real message here, that science-based lifting is only as good as the lifter using it. It's only when you want to get to that higher level, or if you want to bench, say, 3 to 4 plates, that those details start to matter. But perhaps most of all, it's just not as fun discussing these things for the majority of people. Like, I've been going to the gym for 12 years now, but you'll never catch me doing something that I don't find any enjoyment out of. Yeah, if a seated cable chest fly is superior to benching for the chest, people are still gonna bench. Even though these optimization strategies are fun to some people, many just shy away because it takes away the happiness they get from training. And I personally think that is one of the biggest driving forces in training to begin with and doing it consistently for a long time.
That's very true actually. I think in your journey you should find something which you really enjoy, because like that you can stick with it. And once you find that thing, just do it day in, day out, month, year after year. Try your best to be consistent. Try your best to pay attention to how your body changes, to your progress, to all these details which will make you a better athlete or a better lifter or a better bodybuilder, and just build on that. It's a journey, it's not a sprint. And don't fall for these guys who will tell you, based on the science, this is the only way to do it, because they are selling you bullshit. They are selling you fake dreams. They just want your money So don't give them your hard-earned cash, be smart and make the right choice for you. So this is the stuff that people should know, how to train properly, with the proper form, not get lost in these studies and complicate things. Sometimes basic, sometimes simple stuff works the best. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I would like to hear your opinion, so please let me know in the comment section down below. Like, share and subscribe, and I shall see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.